Good evening. Dear residents and voters of Sengkang West and Punggol East SMC, a very, very warm welcome to you. When I was very young, living in my family's HDB flat in Sims Drive, I remember my mum bringing me down for an art competition organized by either the RC or the CCC, which is the Citizens Consultative Committee, both of which come under the People's Association. As a young boy, I saw these GROs, or grassroots organizations, as comprising of residents who sought to engage with the community that they lived in. Fast forward 35 years, and as an opposition MP, I realized that the so-called PA grassroots organizations are not always so innocent. A few residents, including those I have met in Aljunied GRC, do work to engage the community for no political reason, but simply to look out for their neighbors and friends. I commend these RC members for their public spiritedness and neutrality. But when the Aljunied GRC MPs took over in 2011, the first welcome gift from the PAP was the transfer of 26 community sites where Aljunied residents gather and bond, transferred from the Town Council to the People's Association. The 7 RC committee members, the 7 RC committees in UNOS received a directive from someone, I don't know who, not to engage with the incoming Workers' Party Town Council. So, for example, in the past, when RC members would assist the incumbent Town Council to look out for community issues such as declining standards of cleanliness, faulty lights, and so forth, the RCs now disengaged from the new Town Council, and they just kept quiet. Some residents shared with me that there were a handful of mischievous RC members who went further. Instead of alerting the Town Council to community issues, they used the opportunity to badmouth the Workers' Party Town Council. And after 2011, the RCs in UNOS, through the UNOS Community Club, would send requests to AHPETC to use the HDB void decks for RC activities, which I saw no reason to deny the RC's usage of. If they wanted to organize a durian party for residents, I thought, we live in a democracy, and I would want them to treat any opposition party the same way. So go ahead. But in carrying out their durian party or any other activity, they would not forget to invite both the PAP branch chairman and grassroots advisor to mingle with residents. When I asked to be allowed to use a facility managed by the PA in my ward, the reply from the CCC chairman was a polite no. This is the simple reality of the People's Association in opposition wards, an organization that is supposedly exists to encourage greater communal harmony in our community. This caused me to think hard what the PAP government means when it wishes for an inclusive Singapore, and what a hollow and insincere call it is in view of the structure of our grassroots organizations. Now, the CCC sits at the top of all grassroots organizations in Singapore. And in this age of information, it is one of the most mysterious organizations in Singapore. Many Singaporeans will not be able to tell you who the CCC chairman of their ward is. Do you know your CCC chairman? So who appoints the CCC and RC chairman in your ward? Well, they are appointed by the PAP MP or losing PAP candidate in the constituency. The Straits Times previously interviewed several PA grassroots leaders and advisors who said that when they organize activities for residents, they also hope to win political mileage for the PAP MP, and by extension, the PAP. And when they realize that there are opposition supporters in the CCC, these individuals are told to leave. One CCC chairman went even further to say that he expects his CCC members to join the PAP, and he wants an explanation if they refuse. And he shamelessly went ahead to say that the CCC is, and I quote, a voluntary organization for the PAP, unquote. Now, if that was the case, why call it the Citizens Consultative Committee? Just call it the PAP Consultative Committee. If you think grassroots equals PAP grassroots only, and that is an insult on our democracy and the values professed in our pledge and flag, there is an even greater problem I have to share with you. These organizations like the CCC, which use community work and communal harmony, while also openly doing the PAP's political bidding, are funded by yours and my taxpayer money. In 2012, thanks to a parliamentary question filed by the MP for Hougang, Mr. Peng Eng Huat, it was revealed that each of the 87, each of the 87 CCCs in Singapore were given, on average, $150,000 per year from 2005 to 2011. And each of the 567 RCs received about $9,500 per year. Now you may understand part of the reason why the PA's budget has recently been increased to $1 billion. One very innocent RC member in Eunos asked me why the Workers' Party did not organize more activities in the CC for residents. When I sat her down and told her that the CC is not open to opposition MPs for community purpose, and our community organizations do not receive any funding from the PA, she almost embarrassingly looked away from me. I told her that as long as she focused on serving the community and her neighbors and worked with whichever team was elected by the people, she should not be embarrassed about anything. She looked at me and said, "But Mr. Singh, this is so unfair." And then she said, "Now I know why we need an opposition." Now, I looked at this lady and I said, "Now you know why I joined the Workers' Party." Ladies and gentlemen, you must have noticed some of the PAP candidates in these elections in various constituencies offering promises of upgrading to residents in the form of new linkways, elderly-friendly facilities, new playgrounds, etc. Have you ever wondered where this money was going to come from for these upgrading programs? Well, if your precinct is not selected or eligible for the HDB Neighborhood Renewal Program or NRP, the money is likely to come from the Community Improvement Projects Committee, or CIPC, which comes under the Ministry of National Development. And who sits on the CIPC committee in MND? Well, they are PAP MPs and grassroots advisors. The CIPC disburses its funds by virtue of the CCC's recommendations, which I spoke about earlier. Unsurprisingly, an elected opposition MP has no say prioritizing projects in the constituency. And the PAP supporters then ask why the opposition cannot do what the PAP MPs do. Well, that's because the CCC chairman is the boss. And that also partly explains why many PAP backbencher MPs can afford to continue in their high-paying jobs in the private sector and be absent from Parliament and continue holding their many directorships because they leave the groundwork to the CCC and RC chairman. Now each year, MND sets aside about $40 million of its budget for CIPC projects that are executed through the various town councils. And I found out that in the year 2009, 2010, and 2011, 3 consecutive years prior to the general elections in 2011, the Aljunied Town Council under the PAP was allocated about $4 million each year from the CIPC committee, a total of $12 million over 3 years. On a per year basis, that's about 10% of the entire CIPC budget of MND per year. Now, I don't know why they receive such a large share of the budget considering there are other PAP town councils in Singapore, but I suspect it could have something to do with supporting the PAP team in Aljunied GRC. For your information, from 2011 to 2015, AHPETC has received nothing. Since 2012, I have repeatedly asked the CCCs in Aljunied to support new improvement projects. After 18 months of trying, we finally managed to get some projects approved. We proposed about 50 projects, and about 17 were approved in 2013. Many were rejected, which would otherwise have been approved in any other PAP ward, such as upgrading of playgrounds. In spite of 17 approvals some 2 years ago, work has not started on any of them. All are very practical requests. For example, barrier-free access ramp between blocks to serve residents on wheelchairs who need direct access to the bus stop, for example. One of the CCC chairmen in Bedok Reservoir regularly posts pictures of himself on Facebook, how he has helped residents install a ramp outside their house. But he seems to conveniently forget the power that is vested in him by the PAP to push bigger things for residents, like requesting the CIPC committee for funding, not just to help individual residents, but the whole community of elderly folk by building facilities on HDB common property, such as barrier-free access ramps, which ironically also help to complete the home to bus stop journey or bus stop to home journey for the handicapped or elderly person who he just assisted by installing a small ramp at the doorstep. Now, why do the CCC chairmen become so indifferent to helping the community in a bigger way in opposition wards? It's not because they are stone-hearted. It's not because they are bad people. The reason is because installing a barrier-free ramp at the void deck to serve the elderly and handicapped involves it being built on the highly visible town council common property. Should such a facility be built, residents would realize that living in an opposition town council is no different than living in a PAP ward. And in the PAP's world, this cannot be so, even if it means shortchanging and punishing residents. When I asked in Parliament just some months ago how much CIPC funding was extended to each town council in Singapore from May 2011, the MND minister gave a non-answer before ending off. Town councils may approach their respective CCCs if they have any inquiries or proposals. My friends, CIPC funding, which comes from taxpayers, like the CCCs, are intentionally organized to serve as a political tool of the PAP and to make it difficult for any opposition party to make inroads into Singapore politics. The system has evolved over the years and has now become a disease that has permanently hosted itself on our political system. When the WP calls on Singaporeans in its manifesto to empower your future, it is a call on all of us to radically overhaul structures like the CCCs, RCs, and the PA and to unify our people so that we can genuinely call ourselves an inclusive society. That is why we call on the People's Association to come under the President of Singapore and not under the Secretary General of the PAP, so that we can remain a united country for the next 50 years and protect ourselves from any political party that uses grassroots organizations to unfairly benefit itself. The only way we can introduce greater equality and justice into our political system is to teach the PAP an important lesson on the 11th of September this year. There is simply no other way. Empower your future. Vote for the Workers' Party. Thank you.